It's March 31st, 2022. Now, backstory is there was this adorable little leaf from, it looks like a family tree that looks relatable to my person somewhere in the world. She sang on one of the nightly news spots. They found her in a basement singing, and she had the most beautiful little voice, but she was singing Disney's Frozen, like main theme song in Ukrainian. So the American news reported. They then featured her again. They then found her away to a relative of hers. I mean, great story. I've seen her a few times. Then they allowed her. They dressed her in a beautiful dress. She was all cleaned up. They went to a concert hall, and she was able to sing the Ukraine national anthem for a theater. I don't know the name of the theater. Today, I hear the concert voice and the concert girl on the news, but there's Pheno, Pheno. The Americans call it a piano, Piano, which they're calling the person playing the keyboard Keyboard. That's not of the same leaf or tree as the kid singing it. They have her playing I don't know if the correct word is concerto. I am not sure because, again, not musically versed. But it's interesting because I heard the voice of the little girl. They didn't mention anything about the little girl who sang the Ukraine national anthem. But for some reason, they have seated at a piano, and that's what the visual mention is of. Although in Paradox, Parasite, and it's not Paradise, although it is a dicey topic in Yahtzee. There is an interesting spot on that. It then goes into an animal piece of there was a cow in a mailbox, and the cow just knocked over. But they called animal control, which I thought at least a cow gets animal control. And then in the beginning of the news at noon today, there was mention of a Navy SEAL who passed away. Now, I've seen the same story, just a different spin on the story. They said he just recently died during Hell Week, but it's the same picture of the same Navy SEAL for my purpose anyway. I don't have a date on it, but I've seen it once before in an earlier mention. And they said something, they mentioned something about a different disease name or a different diagnosis name that is not something that I've ever heard in my level of being around these type of land doctors, like, I don't know, land army doctors. It was more of a Navy SEAL diagnosis. I don't know at what level you get Walter Reed. Is that just presidential at Walter Reed level? Or do Navy SEALs get that level of appreciation? I mean, again, I am kind of out of the loop and out of touch. But it was in regards to a Hell Week, which is some rigorous training. But then I thought they got all their training on their somebody special position. Apparently, they went to a land school. This particular gentleman, they said that he went to Yale, so that gets confusing because I didn't think somebody special is actually integrated with whatever land folk and attended classes. But again, I really don't know who's managing this human arrangement or derangement for that matter. And it gets confusing watching it on a porthole to nowhere, in some sequence that they make the story sound like it just happened. But I am pretty sure I've seen that taped and aired once before, because now I've been following for a patch of time. So here are the three pieces of this whatever. That's the
As we close out Women's History Month, one Brooklyn girl is breaking barriers at the age of 12. Grace Moore is being called a musical prodigy, and she showcased her talents this morning on The View with a beautiful performance for the fearless women of Ukraine.
I kept looking for the little girl whose voice it was, but I couldn't find one.
Moore played beautifully the Ukraine national anthem live on the show. She is one of the youngest composers to have had their music played by members of the New York Philharmonic. The haunting voice of a child.
Does get confusing. I just found out apparently there's some mention on a TV show Linda was watching. Again, this is TV Land producers, so I don't know how much realism there is. I know in my paperwork that was given by the local school body in New York City, they acknowledge with an international license something about 7 and something about there's a French and Indian war in somewhere in history, but it never really says where or when. That gets confusing. And I guess it's not for everybody to know. I don't know why they'd keep this secret. Seems dangerous, but whatever. Then there's this mention on this one TV program of something about a Spaniard and a Moor. Now, I'm like, at first, like, because amor is love in Italian, amore. But that's not what I don't think they meant. It's a different kind of whatever. And so that got confusing because I never even heard of that. But word from afar, the real Madrid guy who's living upstairs, who has some Bill Clinton recommendation on letter or whatever, and however that works, who's been around the world and found his way here somehow by miracle. He mentioned he was really handy. He looked at the artwork in the foyer. He studied, he said, Old Latin. And so he mentioned something in a conversation, but again, I had and he knew something about Three Kings reference I had never even heard of. So again, there's different levels of education, and then once the people start traveling and reassociating themselves with something, and the local population has no clue what's going on, and these wars start around them and at the same time, but it's like they just keep rearranging the pieces on. There's the unfair advantage, there's taking advantage of the humans, there's stealing advantage. There's a lot of petty stuff going on. Just I don't see petticoats. I see peacoats. And actually, I saw one peacoat. I wear a peacoat every now and again. Oh, actually, no, I did see another local. So I've seen two peacoats. That's it. But petticoats, I wouldn't know what they look like. But I don't think I've seen petticoats. I think that they put those on the TV and movies at times, but again, it's really shoddy information. It's hit or miss, and there's no like flagpole to run it up or down. I got Lin and Lou, and it's like they don't even speak bananas. So, yeah, so that happened.
That's already just amazing. And then her talents, lending her talents to make it just a beautiful moment.
So many doing.
Well, don't have a cow over this cute video. Stafford Township Police were not amused, David, by this trespasser. Apparently, David's not amused at all. Apparently, the bull, whose name is Baby Cow, got out of his gated pen and was found getting into a beef. Yes, a beef with that mailbox in New Jersey.
Oh, no,
Baby
you
Cow,
didn't.
along with a couple of pigs and a goat, were held by officers until animal control showed up to lead them back home with the help of a tasty snack.
That could have been worse with the puns. It really could. Because you're a regular comedian with all of those jokes right there. That's going to do it for this edition of Eyewitness News. I'm David Navarro.
Next time, give that story to David. He loves those puns. I'm Shirley Nallicott. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Stay.
Now they refer to them as puns. Again, it's difficult when the humans speak to know when they refer to it as a pun when they're speaking bananas, when they're just in their normal boy crazy world. Now boy, even though spelled sometimes differently, buoyancy, that's a sailing reference. Just like in a boy crazy world, right? How does everything travel so much in words and people and stories? Is it by land, by air, by sea? It's the jargon's really getting jumbled up in this. Uh-oh.
I'm Shirley Nallicott.
And I'm David Navarro. Now to the story of the Navy SEAL candidate from New Jersey who died just hours after completing the grueling Hell Week training test. 24-year-old Kyle Mullen of Manalapan joined the military only last year.
See, even though the time frame is only 1 year, somehow I don't know exactly what time frame, but I'm now in March 31st of 2022, and this is a re-air. Although it has an enhancement inside of it, because now it has a diagnosis I haven't heard of, and there's the reference up there.
Now his mother is speaking out. Eyewitness News reporter Jarla Miles has more on ABC's exclusive interview.
He says, "I did it, Mom." And he was so happy, and I heard him out of breath, and I said, "Kyle, are you okay?"
Hell Week secured. It's part of the last text message exchange Regina Mullen would ever have with her son. Kyle Mullen, elated after completing the most grueling part of his training to become a Navy SEAL.
He just responded, "Don't worry, Mom. I'm good. I love you." And he hung up. And then I texted him immediately, "You don't sound good." and I never heard from him again.
He represented the very, very best of our state and our country. He was a legend.
The streets of Manalapan, where Kyle grew up, punctuated with flags at half-staff just after his unexplained death in February. There he was a football star in high school, and again at Yale, and later as a postgraduate at Monmouth University. His mother now speaking out for the first time to GMA.
As a nurse, what do you believe happened to your son?
I believe they laid him flat, and he had sight, and he most likely couldn't breathe, and he probably suffocated from his own bodily fluids. I wake up every night thinking of him, thinking of how he died, probably not breathing.
SIPE stands for swimming-induced pulmonary edema. It's fluid buildup in the lungs without choking on water. The 24-year-old had been treated for it once earlier in his training.
Is that the equivalent that they teach here in New York of pluralcy? Pluralcy, where the plurals, the fluid builds up in there, and then it makes lung expansion difficult.
He just needs someone to care about his condition when he came off before he went to go lay down and go to sleep. That's it. A medical professional with a stethoscope could have prevented this.
In a written statement, the Navy Special Warfare Command says all candidates receive head-to-toe medical evaluations, including a full set of core vitals, a minimum of once a day and as required throughout the week, as well as upon the conclusion of the assessment event. Yet little comfort for Kyle's mother, who is still awaiting an official cause of death.
And there was no medical. There was no medical support there for him, or he'd be alive today. I do believe that.
Darla Miles, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Now, the victim of
Now, why is that? I mean, I know that he's in a football, sports, whatever. Telltale sign of something, involvement-wise, just don't know what flagpole or what Big Brother, since nobody allows me to actually have physical contact with anybody important. But I did go to a high school, several of them. One of them specifically did not have football. They had a different sport entirely that I don't even hear of in a professional league anywhere in New York or on the New York State media. So it's a completely different sport, whatever. Not that I didn't partake in it either. We didn't have ice hockey, we had field hockey, that kind of thing. And that wasn't even the main draw. There was a more popular sport than that. That's the secundo, the second one. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.